Hi, I'm Riley. I lead a team of creators, and here's how we ended up doing the KNØWN collaboration with Rings and Robes. So the prodigal son story is kind of the heartbeat and the essence. It's always going to be a part of this brand, and in that story, Jesus tells us about a man who's literally wasted everything. He wasted everything his father gave him, from his health, his wealth, his relationships, even his reputation. And in this vain pursuit of his own desires, his own glory, he not only bankrupts his finances, he loses his identity. This kid is faced with a rock bottom situation, and it's when he hits rock bottom that he can finally snap out of it, realizing that servants in his father's house are doing better than he is at the moment. So then our tragic hero has to return home and own his mistakes. But he knows he'd rather beg for a job at his dad's house than to beg pigs for their sloppy seconds. So the kid expects to return home in shame and dishonor, being known as a failure. But to his surprise, he finds his father rejoicing his return. The father actually calls for his best robe, and some commentaries say that this would have been the father's personal robe. Everyone in town or in their community would recognize it because of the father. It would have been known as his prized possession. So now you look at the son who, instead of being known as his failure, he's actually known for his father. You know, this calls back for a moment that really triggered me in 2021 when fashion designer and entrepreneur Virgil Abloh, he came to the end of his race while battling cancer. And like I said, that sparked something inside of me. I was inspired by Virgil's life, and this idea of known really began to grow. Being known in heaven and feared in hell is a rally cry within my church community. It is actually passed down from my mentor, Michael Fletcher. It's a phrase that rolls around my head on a daily basis. And that's the reality for every believer. We need to walk around wearing it, that we're known in heaven and we're feared in hell. So from that genesis, my next step was to work with our creative team and enlist the genius of my brother Emory Anderson. And that's what really brought these ideas to life. So we came up with our own kind of font design, again, just kind of being inspired by Off-White. We multiplied the word known, again, using the mathematical symbols, the parentheses, which communicates multiplication. So if you have a problem, 2 plus 2, parentheses, 7 plus 5, you multiply those two things together. It's a nod at the way Virgil would use quotation marks to communicate humor and sarcasm in his Off-White brand. The zero, so the O has been replaced with a zero because it really is a sobering reminder that on our own, we aren't anything. It's because of Jesus that a no one can be known. The all white, so again, we just went with the flagship hoodies that Emory made, the home team hoodies. And the all white is a concept in Christianity, it communicates purity, it communicates light, holy, heaven. Our sin being washed away, our scarlets being made white as snow by Jesus' blood. I even think of verses in the Bible that we see that talk about blessed are those who wash their robes so that they may have the right to the tree of life and that they may enter the city by the gates. You know, I love this about Jesus because before he went to the cross, he was mocked. They actually gave Jesus a false robe. In fact, this is in John's gospel where the soldiers, they twisted together a crown of thorns and pressed it on Jesus' head, and they put a purple robe on him. And honestly, y'all, that's a tragic sight. I mean, here you have the King of Kings being mocked with a false crown and a false robe. Like, how can we now stand in God's robe of righteousness? It's because of what Jesus brought on the cross. He paid with a high price. He gave his blood. Jesus took the robe of shame and mockery that we deserved, and he freely traded places with us. We can embrace and receive his perfect robe of right standing. We're known.